Greenwings don't want that in the hands of Bang. Still has a plethora of other champions that he can call, and then Nidalee is going to be the next one, followed up by that Karma. So getting rid of that massive AoE move speed duo here for Jin Air.
And SKT have definitely been playing the season in duos of picks. So Sivir Karma was what they were prioritizing recently. It was Azir and Ezreal at the start of the season, and those champions, Azir especially, has seen some nerfs recently, but I do expect there to still be Azir picks if it comes to the draft. Now, Kuzan is also a noted Azir player, so it will be the final ban from SKT.
Yep. Ryze and LeBlanc, the other two bans, and this leaves Vladimir up, and it looks like Jin Air are going to go ahead and snatch this up for themselves for Kuzan in that mid lane, which makes for a very fast lock-in on the Rek'Sai for Bengi, followed by Nami, which has been pretty much the biggest support right now for Wolf.
Yeah, Wolf is 5-0 on the Nami this season. The only other multiple pick he has is Soraka, so definitely been focusing on that pick. It's been very popular. Pure also put out an MVP performance on the Nami just 2 days ago. Vlad is definitely a highly contested mid lane pick, can build so tanky and get through any bad laning phase, including the Faker special of breaking out the Anivia in that lane matchup. Outside chance it's a flex pick, but the one thing you can say about Vlad is kiteable even with Ghost Flash. It's why Sivir and Karma on the same team really enable him to pop off, and both those champions banned on blue side make that Vladimir pick just with the tools that are available to support it a little bit weaker.
Yeah. Wouldn't be surprised though if we still see the Anivia from Faker. We've seen Bengi with that pick in the past, handing over those blue buffs, even the first rotation blue buff, and then also commanding the enemy's jungle. So you maximize that Anivia with the mana return, because this is 6.11, so the ultimate does cost a little bit more early on in the game.
Feels like a takeaway Ezreal pick. Yeah. The Ghost Flash summon a spell choice by Kuzan does heavily suggest it's going to be the mid lane Vladimir, and then taking away the safe Ezreal AD carry. You really prefer to take the champion with escape against Vlad, just get out of the Hemoplague range and out of the AoE that no doubt he'll be facing. Bang already put out a really impressive performance on that Jhin. For some reason he flashed it first, but now we're back to the normal flashes. We've got to see some Amumu and Tarek before we get anything serious out of Bang.
Well, keep mixing that Trundle in there. So I don't know if Caster Jhin really appreciates being the third person on the desk with Trundles in that rotation. But it looks like it will be the Jhin lock-in for Bang. You mentioned he had an awesome performance with this champion just a little bit ago, so going to be bringing it back out.
And if it's going to be Anivia, I think we'll see it in this rotation. SKT have been setting up for Duke in basically their playstyle and their pick ban.
Ooh.
Although, we're going to see a flex pick now. Heavily expecting this to be top lane Swain, which has a lot more success in LCK than the mid lane. I thought the mid lane would be the go-to pick, but people have been making top lane work. Now, that was mostly in the 6.10 meta.
Yeah.
6.11, the significant nerfs to the Ravenous Flag, the healing in particular. We saw 2 games of Swain yesterday, and it definitely didn't seem to have the same oomph from the top lane.
Yeah,
so
game 1 was okay, and then game 2 it just completely fell apart.
Probably will mean that Trundle is going to be taken sort of champion that can lane against Swain. It can be very painful in the early levels. The Decrepify gets so much value when you're trying to walk past the minion wave and get some last hits in. But interestingly, SKT, as far as we can tell, seem to be leaving that mid lane pick for last.
Yep.
Jin Air are going to look for picks to answer a potential Anivia.
It seems like they're pretty set on this Trundle. The question is it Bard or Braum? The Braum would be good to deny the curtain call from Bang, but looks like they might want to go really aggressive here, and they will lock it in. So Bard for Chei, and Trace with the Trundle, taking that away from Duke.
And Bard can, of course, just ult to interrupt the curtain call, but it is expending an ult. Other champions can interrupt with regular abilities, so a lot more investment there to answer that. As we're looking at this last pick from SKT, expecting mid, outside chance is going to be a top laner.
Mid Leona.
The dream. Leona sees some buffs in future patches, but not in patch 6.11.
You stack AP and that W will just hit like a truck. No, not quite. So they're taking their time with this one.
I think Anivia makes a lot of sense with the Jhin pick because the wall defensively gives Jhin again some more of that space around the back to be able to poke in and out. Jhin is unique because he pokes in and out with his damage, not a sustained auto attacker like a Caitlyn.
You can also use it very aggressively as well. Just wall them in so they can't get around and dodge those bullets nearly as effectively. It looks like it will be Lulu for Faker coming through. So going back to a pick that we saw all the time from this guy just last split, haven't seen it yet.
And so when I saw the Lulu changes on PBE, which looks like she'll be getting some buffs in future patches, it reminded me about Lulu because of course she fell out of the meta as Karma has replaced her, and almost like for utility mid laners. One of the reasons I actually thought about Lulu is that when you talk about a champion like Swain, who gets into the backline, who is very sustained damage, who lost a bit of his ability to be really powerful in the...
Wild growth Swain.
Exactly. Wild growthing the Swain makes a lot of sense. A lot of synergy between those two picks gives an AoE slow onto a champion who already has multiple different slows, and it's a bit of extra health to make up for the nerfs specifically targeted towards the healing. So I do like this combo, but interesting to see a return to Lulu on this patch 6.11. She still has her power, but the laning phase against Vladimir could be pretty punishing depending on the itemization from Kuzan.
Yeah. See if he wants to go for that proto belt early, or if he wants to change it around, go for something a little bit more defensive.
It is a very different type of Lulu comp. Of course, SKT, the best team in the world at using this Lulu mid pick, but remember, it was always Lulu Lucian, a champion who can frontline. Jhin is not known as a frontline AD carry, so this is literally a top lane synergy pick. This is all about setting up Duke to take over team fights because Jhin is not that kind of champion.
Well, I mean, we've seen Duke on this patch already multiple times, and I don't think he has a problem taking a hold of the game from the top side of the map. So, it will be double teleport for SK Telecom to the TP Ghost with Kuzan, but let's get into game one. First place versus second, Jin Air and SKT. All right, here we go. Mountain Drake to kick things off. All right. We have a pretty packed audience here. The OGN East Stadium in Sangam. Even the nosebleed seats are pretty full up today, and a lot of foreign faces here too.
I mean, SKT obviously have the biggest fan base of any Korean esports team, League of Legends or otherwise, but Jin Air is right up there. It's an org that wasn't around at the start, but came in about a season later than everyone else, has really stuck around, persisted. The Stealths and the Falcons once upon a time, now of course, just the Jin Air Greenwings. Let's go Warriors, press R to win.
That's pretty good.
So you may be surprised to know, Achilles, and I guess OGN Legion, that Lulu is not Faker's most played champion. If you had to guess, Achilles, what would you say is his most played champion?
Azir.
It's not actually the Azir, which comes in third, Lulu second. First is Orianna, which of course has been out of the meta for a long time, but was a Faker staple.
Yeah.
Faker has 28 games, 19-9, 68% win rate on Lulu. Some other interesting fan signs that maybe OGN will get around to showing.
Yeah, looks like they're getting ready to aim it up. I hope they show those on the screen. Oh, I'm ready for the Twitch chat spam once that one goes up. But looks like we're going to have a little invade here by Chei trying to harass him out. They will stop that big Raptor. Meanwhile, Wolf trying to get some work done.
No team is bold enough to try and enter lane with the jungle duo after we saw Eva kill people during that.
Well, Chei's just going to roam straight into mid and shove Faker away from these minions.
There's a lot of people chasing level 1s at this point.
Yeah. It's going to go...
Oh wow, they're actually bringing in 3 members to contest this red buff.
Yeah,
Wing doesn't have his smite up.
Yeah, this is really bold here. The reset will come through, but SKT still established dominance there, and they will be able to take away the red buff, so very nicely done. Haven't taken any of theirs yet, so there's a chance that Jin Air could push in and take the red so they don't get double buffed.
But that was actually some really questionable jungle follow from Jin Air. They were trying to take their red buff on the weak side. Now, a lot of teams will try to take the Krugs into the Raptors to try and take the safe, smaller camps, and they can always kite upwards and join their jungle follow if that fails. But trying to take your red buff is super optimistic on the side of Jin Air. So vertical jungling is now finally put together, but feels like the tempo might be delayed from a Jin Air side just because of that greed.
Yeah. Well, all 3 members on both sides going to be up to these towers, the tier 1s on the top side, so they should go down. And then, of course, Bengi hovering around that bottom side. SKT might be in a decent position to go for an early Mountain Drake if they don't just recall out of here. We'll see what they decide to do.
Teams always have different priorities when it comes to the early Drake. It can depend on the laning matchup because Jin Air will really be hoping to baby pilot through the early laning phase. What we see some teams do is take a very fast outer turret top, then swap into the 2v2 bottom with the tier, try and force 2v2 and have, say, Cull versus tier as the eventual result, which allows the safe stacking up for the Ezreal without having to deal with massive combat stats on the side of SKT. But we can see SKT do seem to be swapping top lane.
Tempo going to be pretty even here. See, Wing does push in and get that red buff. Bengi gave the blue over to Faker early, as mentioned. So even though he's now in the Anivia, still prioritizing Faker so he can get that maximum amount of harass with those glitter lances in the mid lane.
Should have a very severe pushing advantage. Not till you get a couple of levels in Tides of Blood that you can really answer the minion wave. And of course, it uses health to push. So even though Vlad has good sustain now in the world post Hextech Revolver, it still is gated around cooldowns.
Just going to be a general reset. You can see Duke is still on this bottom side, and Jin Air's bot lane just going to stick around down there and try to get that push moving into the next tower. That's going to be the recall for the Swain, and should just see a mirrored push onto these tier 1s yet again.
This will be the delayed turret take. So in a world with no turrets, does mean Duke's going to be very overextended if he looks for harass. When you put out that Razorburst, the Decrepify to harass, it does end up pushing the wave, so we'll have to be very careful about getting ganks. Swain's so susceptible to ganks pre-6 until he has the ult to mostly sustain through most things in that regard. But just thinking more about the late game, the strength of Jhin is usually proportional to how strong the strength is of the enemy's front line, and the front line for Jin Air, Vlad will get pretty tanky, but obviously it's going to be mostly itemized for health in that regard. But Trace, it's honestly all about how much gold Trace can pick up, because SKT's game plan this season has been about sending top laners, enemy top laners way behind, and having Duke often 30 to 40 CS up 10 minutes into the game and snowballing a 4-1 split push advantage. That's why Irelia and Trinity Force carries coming in is at the perfect time for SKT, because they were already setting up Duke to carry. So the question is, can they hold Trace back on the CS and ensure that this Trundle gets outscaled by Bang's damage early?
Well, so far so good. He does have an advantage there for Duke, so he'll be getting a bit of a lead, and we can see that tempo advantage going over to SK Telecom as they are able to finish the tower a bit faster than Jin Air in this bottom side, who had to proxy a wave and wait for their next one to crash. So they will get a bit of an advantage off of that.
Mid-game power spike.
Jin Air on the bottom side, they could go for that dragon.
Waiting to see how much of a reverse push Trace gets. Waits a long time. That mini wave will push back, but SKT's already there. Mid-game, you're going to have Lulu and Jhin, who are going to be online just that much earlier than Vladimir and Ezreal. So early objective fighting should be pretty significantly in the advantage of SK Telecom.
Yeah. Well, it looks like we're not going to see those signs on the screen. As unfortunate as it was.
Probably a good thing.
Yeah, we did have a TSM sign, so.
A lot of global fans here today.
There are. Oh, Wing gets caught by the bubble bank. He goes in, gets the knock up on the Unburrow, forces the flash out from Wings. Nice forward aggression here from SK Telecom. They'll get some deep wards into the jungle as well.
Wing has just been super aggressive at trying to take extra buffs on the side of the jungle that his team is not playing around. Spot lane has been sent back top, so he doesn't have any lane pressure. He will always be outnumbered in spot side jungle until that changes. So for now, needs to avoid that side of the jungle.
Yep. See that little red minion was left.
Kuzan needs to be careful here.
Yeah, he's going to throw out the Hemo Plague. Ebb and Flow comes through to keep Faker pretty healthy. Bubble not going to connect. Nice little juke back there by Kuzan. Keeps himself safe, but good aggression from Faker. This is just what we've come to expect from him time and time again on this Lulu.
Super aggressive. No magic resist runes. We're in a world where you don't need to take cooldown blues anymore, but Faker is like, nope, I'll swap cooldown for AP. Thanks very much. Yep. No magic resist needed.
Let's see though, Bengi's been playing so much with his team that he's been falling behind a bit in experience, level 4 to level 6. So Wing does have that advantage. Of course, level 6 and the Elise not going to get a whole lot compared to the Rek'Sai, where you get that Void Rush. But Jin Air grouping up as 4 people up in this top side, going to be looking for that tier 2 tower. Bengi roaming his way down to the bot, where Bang and Wolf have already put a significant amount of damage in onto the turret.
They have an auto attack cancel in the bite from Trundle and also Ezreal's ability to AoE speed up. So SKT always going to be second at taking these turrets. So
you get that extra damage on the fourth shot from the Jhin, but not going to be keeping up as much as the consistent damage.
And now let's see which team can set up the freeze better, because this is a scenario SKT's been put in many times. Early inner turrets, early inhibitor turrets taken down, and then Duke will invariably get a massive freeze. Look at how far up Trace has to be to get any sort of CS. Now he has a couple of wards.
He's also 2 levels down.
Have vision around the area, so it's not the most precarious push in at 8 minutes to the enemy inhibitor turret, but just saying that out loud lets you know that Trace is in a really bad spot to pick up any CS.
Well, you mentioned that he has been dying quite a lot so far this split. This is kind of just illustrating why that is.
One of the stats I mentioned in the pregame is that Jin Air has the least amount of deaths in the whole league, which is surprising, but the percentages are there. Both Bengi and Trace have been the big offenders at dying, just because their teammates have been doing so well that there's been no space for anyone else to die.
I believe you had a fun statistic about how many times Duke has died so far.
Duke's died 6 times in 10 games as a top laner. Meanwhile, Trace is dying 33% of the time for his team. I think it's around 18 deaths. So lets you know what sort of a season Duke is having. He's at 16.3 KDA 10 games in, which is insane to be over 15.
Yep, it's pretty monstrous.
No other player is over 10. The rest of SKT, I believe they're 6 of the top 7 in KDA. I'm not including Blank because he's 36 from 4 games, so sample size issues there.
Well, as Drake hasn't yet become a point of contention, thought maybe SKT would go for it after taking the tier 2 tower, but have held off for a bit of time. They have that ward in the river, so they do spot Jin Air starting this one up. Could roam down and try to contest his pink as well in that brush. And it looks like Jin Air are going to have to back off, knowing that they got spotted out.
So SKT understand that when you have these scenarios where inner turrets go down early, setting up your top laner is actually a lot more important than the first Drake. All these Drakes provide multiplicative stats. They're not relevant in the early game. SKT have more had the priority of setting up Duke, and look at this CS difference between Duke and Trace. It's already 40 CS at 10 minutes, and this is honestly the SKT special post-MSI.
This is looking pretty rough here for the Trundle. Trace just finally getting that Tiamat, has only about 20 stacks on.
Goodbye, minion wave.
Yeah. Bang, just gonna go ahead and use the curtain call, clear that out. But yeah, 20 stacks on the cull for Trace, so still a far cry away from completing that item.
So viewers will probably wonder, how does SKT do this? Because consistently we see 30, 40 CS advantage, and that's not about Duke being better at last hitting than his opponent or anything like that. It's again about the priorities of SKT. They will not go for a Drake if in some way Duke will have to give up objectives or CS to do it. And then when they do go for a Drake, it's when finally we see Duke push in the minion wave top. And that's the thing, is that finally, as Trace, you see a big minion wave and you realize, oh crap, we're either going to lose the Drake or I have to teleport. Or I have to not teleport and stay in lane and force a 5v4. And SKT's been all about giving the opponent no good decisions. It's been a choice between one sacrifice or another.
Yep.
And that's mostly been about getting Duke ahead.
Bengi going to get stunned up, but Jin Air not really in a position to try to capitalize on that one. So it's going to be a little bit of a one-off, but we can see SK Telecom going to move straight over to this Mountain Drake. Going to start this one up and try to whittle it down. Wing did use the smite, but he's going to have it back up in time to try to come for some sort of seal. Pilot and Chei hovering around this pit. Looks like they will be able to confirm it with relative ease. And Jin Air not really going to try to push in and contest that objective. No teleports being used by the top laners either, so SKT going to get away pretty scot-free with a Mountain Drake to start things off.
Yeah, Duke and Trace both had abilities to interrupt their enemy's teleport, and Duke is 2 levels ahead and only a Tiamat on Trundle, so no real way for Jin Air to opt into that objective fight.
Yeah, if Trace TP's in, he pretty much just dies. Wing gonna get caught though, Bubble coming next as well. Bengi comes over the wall, pops him up, and Wing goes through the magical journey. Looks like it just came up in time for him to make it out safely. Curtain call used by Bang, but just didn't have the lineup, so cannot find the shot.
So increasingly, we've seen so many teams cotton on to the fact that any champion with a long-range ability, and Jhin makes a pick comp. Lulu can glitter lance off a screen, Rek'Sai's Prey Seeker has massive range. Any of those abilities hit, and suddenly the W from Bang is that route, can open up a kill. There is chain CC from Nami as well, so one of the reasons that Jhin has really risen in priority, and of course also that largely tanks are being forced out of the top lane, front lines are getting weaker, and Jin's one of the big champions to profit.
Yeah, something that I was hoping we were going to see right there was that Bang could just line up the shot because he knows the move speed that you have through the magical turning, so it's really easy to hit it, but didn't set his cone of vision very well, so just had to cancel.
Violet walking up. Oh, that's another champion statistically, although Jin Air in a ward. We're originally looking to gank onto Duke, but for now turning onto the Rift Herald. SKT know about this.
Yep, Chei is taking a couple of the hits from this. He's down to about half. You can see that Trace is joining, Wolf roaming in, finds that pink ward, throws at the bubble. The TP is going to be matched here by Faker, who's coming in from the base. Zips his way in the front line. Here comes the curtain call. Jay, one shot away from going down. They find Trace with the last shot. The flash not going to take him out of range, and Bengi goes forward, flashes in for it. Actually, he already had his flash down, just moves forward for it, and gets that kill onto Chei. That's going to be a 2-0 pickup for SK Telecom, and now they can turn their sights onto that Rift Herald.
I mean, the moment that Jin Air could see multiple members from SKT leaving lane, Duke, for example, they had to know there was vision onto the Rift Herald, and that was a level 4 Chei on the Bard. Tiamat only on Trace. They don't have any tank stats. I already mentioned that SKT clearly, with champions like Lulu and Jhin, have the early game team fighting advantage at the best of times from a Jin Air perspective. But that ult, you know, not many items behind it for Bang, but enough when everyone's so underfarmed on the side of Jhin Air.
Look at this one here.
Yeah, Bang just opens up, and everything that Chei is taking is lethal. And you look at this one. Trace flashes, unfortunately for him, straight into a 400 damage. Final hit, Chei, no base stats, dies as well. You had to take the memo, Jin Air, that SKT knew what was up, had the champions to react, just a single teleport, 2 kills and now a Rift Herald. The objectives pile up for SKT.
Yep. Gold not so much though, only going to be 1,000 separating these guys, but still Mountain Drake for SK Telecom can go a very long way as they start pushing up towards these towers. Faker did take the Rift Herald buff, so it's like, do you like pushing power? Let's give it to a Lulu.
This only gets the half effectiveness from the Glimpse of the Void proc. Kuzan. Not really much Bengi can do to a Vladimir.
Yeah. He's going to stay safe for the time being. Spirit Visage has been completed and now has a needlessly large rod in the inventory, so looking to go a bit more aggressive now with this build.
Against difficult lanes, this is something that Coco showed when he was laning against Crown's Anivia 2 days ago, is that if you just go for a straight Spirit Visage rather than trying to build an early Proto Belt, you can lane against Anivia, and Lulu very much similar in terms of her early trades like an Anivia, so smart to go a bit further into the resist, and obviously so many ways that Vladimir scales with Spirit Visage.
Well, not going to get the root there from the W, but Bang still grouping up into this mid side, and Kuzan now forced to stick around. We're on the risk of losing a lot of HP on this turret.
Finally some magic resist onto Trace, building towards Spirit Visage. Has no armor though, so if we follow the SKT playbook, they will rotate their AD carry into Trundle's lane and really try to take advantage of the lack of defensive stats on Trace.
Yep. See, that Rod of Ages has been completed by Duke for about 3 minutes now, so we'll have that fully stacked at about 24 minutes or so.
Baker sticking with the playbook. Sheen into Lichbane seems to be his first completed item after Merlinomicon. It's always been a Faker special.
Bengi has a Tiamat.
This is what he does. Battle Bengi.
Sticking with the Battle Bengis.
Yeah, no sight. He has a Tracker's Knife, but no sight stones for Bengi anymore.
Well, going back to that very aggressive Rek'Sai build. Nice to see. So far, Winged just has that Ruby Crystal. We'll see where he wants to go with that one. Could just be a Ryze Crystal Scepter. Go for the Giant's Belt first.
SKT just pushing really hard. Obviously, the wave clear from Kuzan is going to be massive. Doesn't have a high amount of ability power.
He also has to walk up and runs the risk of getting caught by a bubble. Speaking of which, Winged catches one. He takes a good amount of damage. Whittled down to below half HP by Beatrice. And that's going to be the end of that siege, but SK Telecom still get a significant amount of damage in onto that tier 1 in the mid, and Faker has his eyes set on that bot lane where he can go and pretty much equalize the CS count between himself and Kuzan, who's been inching above him for the majority of this game.
One of the reasons why I reflected on the Sheen into Lichbane build for Faker is that he has teleport this game. It's double teleport against just a single from Trace, so
Get split push.
yeah, with the split push, the 1-3-1 will be very, very powerful on the side of SKT.
See, Drake spawning now. It's going to be another Mountain Drake. And Jin Air definitely want to get their hands on that one if they can. This double Mountain Drake for SK Telecom would be very bad news bears.
1-3-1 with a Lich Bane and 20% extra damage to turrets is going to be absolutely Lulu, just obliterating inner turrets. Just a couple of seconds. Goes back, Sorcerer's Shoes into the Blasting One, so plenty of power here for the Dragon fight, and Trey still impoverished. Should not be looking to fight Jin Air. They don't have an Aegis either. Because Ryze is being built, significantly delayed will be the Aegis on the side of Jin Air, and they need it against double AP.
Oh, Violet gets caught with the W. That's going to be the Kurt Cole opening up. Finds one shot. Chei going to body block the rest of these.
Chei's level 5.
Yeah, Tidal Wave comes through. Last shot, though, of course, not going to do enough. Faker goes really aggressive, flashes in, gets caught immediately by the Cocoon. Has to wild grip himself with the Hemo Blink is there, and he's going to go down. Chei finds the kill. Bengi, turret shot comes through. He falls as well. Kuzan picking that one up. The bubble's not going to connect, and the Vladimir trying to still hound on top of SK Telecom. The Bard ultimate comes through. Duke gets stunned up, and 3 kills get picked up by Jin Air. What a turnaround, and Faker going way too aggressive.
Yeah, Faker got baited by Chei, who was level 5 at the start of the fight. Look, is level 7 just from experience from champions dying during the course of the fight. Went for the aggressive flash into an excellent Cocoon from Wing. 3 members fall, an outer turret falls, and this could be an inner turret as well for Jin Air.
This thing is going to go down. Bang not able to find that final bit of damage on the Wing to finish him off, but 2 towers picked up now for Jin Air, and they find themselves with a 2.3 thousand gold lead. What a turnaround. Let's take another look at this, because this was crazy.
And it's just gifted to them. As I said, Chei is level 5 at start of fight. Pilot opens up, and when we see the 3rd hit come through, that's when Faker's like, I've got the damage, take him down and run rotation. Doesn't expect the preemptive flash from Chei. Gets caught, and then they're fighting under turret. Vladimir AoE hits the entire front line. Bengi dies to the turret as well, and Kuzan. No one there to peel him away from Bang. No Lulu fighting next to this particular Jhin. Nice little Bard ultimate as well onto both the turret. It means that Duke has nowhere to go. Really smooth from Jin Air, capitalizing on a moment that he'd like to forget from Faker.
Yeah. You can see, though, SK Telecom not going to wait around and take it slow. Still move straight back in and find themselves that 2nd Mountain Drake. So not going to be resting on their failures. Still trying to be as proactive as possible, but definitely have to think twice about going that ham onto Jin Air, because Winged, that was a beautiful Cocoon.
I mean, that's probably the first major misstep we've seen from SKT in 11 games. It's their 11th game on the Rift, and they've been almost flawless in the first 10, so they are human after all. Jin Air loves to pull it long. If they get a chance to do it this game, they do have a lot of power in the late game team fights with the Vladimir and the Trundle, so this game is not decided at 20 minutes, and for SKT, that's an anomaly compared to the rest of this season.
It's a good song, Human After All. I do love me some Daft Punk. You a Daft Punk guy, Papa?
Sure. Aerodynamics, one of my favorite songs. The older catalog is great stuff, and your stuff's good too.
I have a...
They're touring soon, aren't they?
Well, that's my theory / the rumor, because if you look at all of their live albums and their tours, they always go on the years that ended in 7. So it started in 1997. I think that's is it Alive, or is it 2007? I forget which one Alive is. It might be 2007. But so 1997, then 2007. Now it's 2017 coming up. So the pattern should consist, and it should lead to us having another wonderful Daft Punk tour around the world.
The LCK patterns have held true when it comes to the Tigers making it to the final, only to get steamrolled by SKT. And SKT dominating the summer season. So those two things must be correlated, right? Daft Punk schedules and LCK trends.
For sure. This be a 20-year pattern if they keep with it. I'd love to see them live so much. I was talking about this with Monty when we were at Ultra just last weekend. And he said, you know what? Avicii's okay. We want to see Daft Punk.
Yeah, Ultra is a Korean music festival, for those not aware.
It's a worldwide music festival.
Okay, I didn't know that, actually.
The main Ultra Music Festival happens in Florida.
Ah, there you go, a worldwide music festival.
Yeah. They stream it on Twitch. You should know this.
Twitch is a pretty good platform.
It is.
Well, SKT, worth noting that the CS advantage for Duke is a lot smaller than it was in the early game, so credit to Trace finding farm. Has still gone pretty offensive with the build, but execution is calling against Swain Lulu. Is that pretty much a requirement? Does cut down the healing from Lulu's ultimate as well, so good investment there. There is the Lich Bane completed from Faker, so this is the 1-3-1, but it's worth noting that since there's only one inner turret left on the map that's easy to get to, i.e. the top lane, mid lane turret. So the top lane inner turret. Not that easy to set up such a swift push to get multiple objectives in this 1-3-1. Very hard to 1-3-1 down an inhibitor, it turns out.
Yes, it is. Unless you're wildly ahead.
Which, for once, SKT are not.
Nope. They are going to try to close this gold gap just a little bit because they take down that tier 1 tower and already whittled it down considerably early on.
15 minutes into the game, SKT average a 2,500 gold lead. For context, number 2 in the league is around 400 gold over, so over 2,000 lead over number 2.
That is...
Jin Air was number 3 at around 370.
That's absolutely absurd.
Well, this is one of those games to start answering those statistics, though.
Yeah.
They were ahead at 15 minutes, but shortly afterwards, Faker's over-aggression has led to this very small gold lead for Jin Air.
Trace, though, 50% of his team's deaths. That's just
Poor
no
effort,
good, man.
really.
I love how yesterday with the ESC match, all of the kills, the 7 kills initially in that game were between Linderong and Songwon. I think it was like 4 and 3 for the top of the jungle.
I don't understand a world where Lear is not your starting jungler.
I don't know. It's not a world I want to live in.
Now, SKT in a team fight still are pretty far ahead. The big story is that they have Aegis. There is no Aegis on the side of Jin Air against double AP. And the front line, while Elise has armor, Trundle does not. So there is still a world where the double AP can really DPS down the members of Jin Air, and Bang has multiple targets that will take a lot of damage from his now 2-item Jhin. So I feel like item-wise and, of course, power spike-wise, SKT still in a really good spot.
Duke. He missed the Grom. Throws out the W, whittle down that wave, but a bit of a misplay there. Thought the ultimate was going to kill it, but the reset came through just a little bit faster.
And just keep pushing. But the next Drake in a minute. They'd like to get on the board on that one.
See the rapid fire cannon completed for Bang as his second item, so Essence Reaver into that one, looking for that extended little bit of range so he can keep himself away from Kuzan and Trace.
His auto attacks just hit so hard with all his AD scaling, and if you get an extended range auto attack with the 4th shot, you can do upwards of 600-700 damage even with just this little amount of AD, although as I say that completes a BF sword, so really starting to pile up. An Infernal Drake obviously would be massive for either team. Vladimir and Jhin both scale in multiple ways with AP and AD respectively, so big Drake for both teams as always.
Not sure what the next one is. I didn't spot it after the second Mountain Drake went down.
Let's just assume Cloud and then be happy if it's anything else.
That's very true. That's a good way
the
to
glass
approach
half full approach to
That
Drakes.
is a very good way to put it, actually.
Oh, we're going to see an icon soon. What's going to be?
It's another Mountain Drake.
Whoa.
Triple Mountain.
We are sending the mountain. Will the mountain symbolify toppling SKT for the first time this season?
Symbolify?
Yeah, that's right. Symbolize, perhaps. Will it symbolify it, though, Achilles?
I like it. We'll roll with it. It goes along with my equalize. What did I equalize?
Equalize is actually a word.
No. I said equivalate.
Ah, equivalating. That's
yeah.
a good one. So this time
like
Jin Air has the setup. Drake's down to 1,500.
Yeah, it looks like they can't find a way in here. Flash has to be used by Bang just to stay away from that Bard ultimate. So first Mountain Drake for Jin Air to the 2 of SK Telecom. It's a nice pickup for them. Gonna allow for those sieges to be that much easier. And it's gonna be an Infernal next. So wow, we're just getting all the good Drakes today.
SKT had Duke with a massive minion wave, and they prioritized him finishing off that minion wave over trying to contest the Drake. If you look on the mini-map, there weren't many good wards available to really contest, so they didn't go for the low percentage contest. Gave up a Mountain Drake, but with 2 in their hold, they're going to be okay with that. Still very, very even between these two teams as the timer rolls on.
Every time that the Elise Spiderling like leaps back to a wave, just makes me just feel really uncomfortable.
I'm Australian, so I'm just like, whatever. It's just a spider.
I hate them so much.
I got no phobia of Elise or Cassiopeia.
I've seen cockroaches in Korea, crickets, and mosquitoes. That's good for me. I can stand those things, but once the spiders start coming, it's you got a problem.
Such a pansy.
I'll call on you to come
That's
kill all
right.
the spiders if they get into my house. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, they have the pink and the scuttle crab. They know that the pit is empty. They start this one up, but this is still really risky. They just decide to back off.
Yeah, you saw the blue ping, so Jin Air put 2 and 2 together and allow a free Baron to come through. Now, one of the good things about Benny Baron is Bengi.
Yeah, gets caught by the Cocoon, still pretty healthy though. Can't find any follow-up, and Trace is stuck in that bottom side. Duke ready to just interrupt the TP.
Just for SKT, if they can get exclusive vision around Baron, it's massive for them, because we mentioned it already, they have excellent long-range pick comp, so they can turn from Baron and blow one person up pretty quickly. They have good chain CC after the root lands, so they're all about looking for that first pick, because for now, Jin are getting closer and closer to being very competitive in a true 5v5 team fight. So take the picks if you can get them.
And they will. So far, gold has still just been hovering around 900. SKT have done a good job to not let that triple kill pickup from the side of Jin Air exacerbate things. So still playing very intelligently despite the minor mishaps that occurred in that mid lane.
It was major by SKT standards though, and they just haven't really been able to get the map pressure they wanted to set up the 1-3-1 ever since that failed dive. We've seen Faker kind of be rooted to the mid lane, clearing waves rather than going for the split push that his build really behooves. Now it's Jin Air setting up around the Baron. They want to draw Duke's teleport to answer one of the double teleports on the side of SKT.
Well, we go for the Death Rush, but Bengi sniffs it out, throws the Praise Seeker in, and they have to pile out of there. But Jin Air doing a good job of having forward vision around this pit. Don't want to allow SKT to get in there and try to sneak something. Now Trace starting to go really aggressive on the Duke. You can see he's winning those trade backs. But look at Pilot. Oh, wow. That's going to be the curtain call coming through. He flashes away. They lose vision of him. He will be able to exit through the magical journey. The last shot not going to connect. Tidal Wave gets used as well by Wolf.
Interesting.
That was very questionable. But it is a relatively short cooldown, so we'll just have to wait for that one. But chunking out Pilot, a very good thing. So they send him back to the base. And this allows for SKT to push in, get some vision control around the Baron pit like they had just a couple minutes ago.
So no two comps are made the same, and the important thing to note is that because SKT has Rek'Sai, pulling off the sort of brush bait that SKT is looking for with the Jhin isn't really an option available to Jin Air. Rek'Sai will normally snuff out information about any of those aggressive players. Speaking of aggressive players, Chei...
Yeah, they're going for Faker. The Bard ultimate not going to connect. Kuzan comes in, throws down the Hemo Plague. Wild Growth straight onto Faker, but he's still getting whittled down so low. And look at that pop as it comes through. Kuzan finds the kill. Meanwhile, Wing takes out Bang on the backside with the help of Trace, and they're just going ham on SKT, taking down Wolf to boot, and that's going to be a Baron going over to Jin Air.
And the second time that Faker is caught out, it has the flow-on effect. Remember, Nami had already used the ult optimistically with no reward, so she just died alone. Trace will zone out Rek'Sai. 5,000 health from the Baron. I think it's going to be Baron Jin Air.
Yeah, no way for Bengi to get there in time, and they smite it out. So Jin Air finding a firm lead finally in this game, almost 3,000 up with a Baron buff.
That was not something I expected. The first dive and now the second play, because remember, this is Faker overextending against double Ryze on the side of Jin Air. This time it's Kuzan. You don't normally respect CC coming through.
Yeah, just nothing for Bengi
from the Vladimir, but the slow is enough. As you mentioned, on the other side, we saw Jhin caught out. 3 kills swiftly over to Jin Air. I didn't think the picks would come through because of the Rek'Sai, and as I said, I have to eat my words as SKT overextend and are punished.
Well, to be fair, at least it wasn't a death brush, as you were talking about, but it was just Faker just being in the river too far forward.
And then everybody that walks up to try and help him dies as well.
Oh boy, here we go. TP coming in as Duke is all alone in no man's land, just trying to whittle down Kuzan, but it's not going to do a whole lot. The rest of SKT is trying to join this, but he's not really long for this world. He still has a huge amount of sustain with the wave there, but he's trying to stick around as long as he possibly can. Zonia's at the last second will regen a little bit of HP, but it's just a matter of time before he goes down, gets the never move. He's just living forever. Good God, Duke.
And think about that. Duke just bought 30 to 40 seconds of Baron time.
And they invested the TP for that.
They used a lot of resources for very little gain. They will be able to push up the minion wave in the top, but the minions being there allowed him to just lifesteal so severely.
Imagine if that was 6.10.
I mean, he would still be alive.
Wow.
Probably be dead about now.
Yeah. That was some impressive stuff there from Duke. But they do kill him in the end, and now he's not going to be able to answer for this Infernal Drake, the first of the game, and we can see SKT want nothing to do with it. The TP's being used by Faker.
They're trying to catch out
they're
Kuzan.
trying to catch out Kuzan. Here comes Faker. He pops the Ghost, goes straight into the Sanguine Pool to dodge out. The Glitter lands. W not going to connect. The Tidal Wave does pop him up, but they can't get on top of him, so TP invested, and SK Telecom cannot come up with the pick.
Yeah, Kuzan's timing on the pull was actually really important there. Faker missed the Glitter Lance and then could only got a single auto with the Tyco's Blessing, so not enough slows allowed Vlad to just push up, and it's just as the minion wave crashes to mid. They get decent damage, but will they be able to take out this inhibitor turret?
Well, they're working on it, have that Baron-empowered cannon still. Duke's trying to work it down with the Decrepify. Turns to about half HP, and the wave's getting ready to crash. They do get a Ruda here onto Trace, but he's still a very tanky Trundle. You see the heals coming through as the minions die around him. He is going to be quite safe. So even with Trace having that massive discrepancy early on, they just couldn't push it to much of an advantage. Turn call gets used, flash forward, the bubble connects on the Kuzan, shield comes through, can they find him? Bengi goes in deep, but gets locked up immediately by the Cosmic Binding, has to retreat as he gets whittled down. Bard ultimate connects onto Wolf and Faker, who are both really far forward. Cosmic Binding to follow up, and Faker to go down. That is going to be a 3-for-1 pickup. Pilot the only one falling, and now they're looking for Duke as well. Ignite ticking, it goes into the Zonias, but he's not in his ultimate. He's going to fall. He goes down.
This could be the
Bang!
game.
The only person alive. The inhibitor falling. The wave here still empowered by Baron, and Jin Air are looking to take down SK Telecom in game one at just 34.5 minutes.
Only Bang alive, still over 30 seconds on Faker. This is going to be the win streak stopping at 10. No one expected it, but man, Jin Air have come to play, and it's even a short game by their standards.
What in the hell just happened? Jin Air Greenwings defying all expectations, coming out hugely in this first game, finishing him off. The Nexus will explode right as we hit that 35-minute mark. 11-4, and Jin Air up a game over SKT.
SKT's mid game was a real head scratcher. Faker made 2 misplays where he was just out of position, caught, and then multiple members from SKT rolled in. It felt like those games you watch where one person dies and they roll in one by one. And one by one, Jin Air added up their advantages, and even with just a single teleport against double teleport against one of SKT's comfort comps, that comfort comp didn't come together, and Jin Air pick up the first game.
Yeah, wow. SK Telecom suffering their first loss here in the summer split. Still not a match loss, but it's a really strong start here for Jin Air. We can see SKT putting their heads together, trying to figure out what happened. We know what happened. Faker happened, but in a bad way.
But the Vladimir, Kuzan, 8-0-2.
Yeah, look at that damage to champions.
He had almost 100% kill participation, just missed out on one fight. Double the damage of anyone else. Notable that Pilot did almost no damage, but Vladimir carried the damage total despite going Spirit Visage first. 3 4-man Hemoplagues consistently. Good catch onto a couple of members, and really solid victory